There's controversy in what caused some of the breakage. Some of the glass panels most of the glass panels were broken out. A lot of the debate is that flying objects actually broke the panels, and once the wind entered the building, and then it destabilized and blew the wind had to exit somewhere, and it blew out the storefront, the glazing on the west side of the building. But most of it probably was caused, in my opinion, was caused by flying objects.
The ocean had basically washed up over the campus. There were reports of crabs in the grass and all kinds of fish. And when you looked at the photos of the headquarters site following the storm, there were signs of sea spray on the executive floor on the 6th level from the tidal surge of the storm.
In total, FPL had 1.4 million customers that were out of service immediately following Hurricane Andrew. And these outages went as far north as Palm Beach on the East Coast and as far north as Fort Myers on the West Coast. So our Naples areas, Fort Myers, Dade and Broward were obviously affected. Within 2 weeks of Hurricane Andrew, we had restored all but 90,000 customers.
The company was certainly better off after the storm. You know, a lot of people call the storm St. Andrew. We couldn't and didn't think of it as St. Andrew ever. I tell you that if I got an opportunity to say, well, if you had to go through this again, would you rebuild again? And even though the storm made me tougher and all that, the anguish that we went through and the whole family went through, I would say, you know what? No, I'm not interested in that. Given the opportunity, I would rather, do something else.
One of the things that I think we found out that nobody really realized is that although the South Florida building code at the time was probably the toughest building code in the country, there were a lot of abuses where in fact contractors did not build according to the code. Hurricane straps weren't used. There was just a tremendous shortage of enforcement of building code when those many homes and many condominiums were built. And of course, nobody would know that until the storm came.
The disaster contract network is something that the Florida Home Builders Association is very proud of. It's a product that we worked on to train builders across the state how to do mitigation, storm mitigation, post-storm event work, to know how to get homeowners back into their home quickly. It also is a network that will allow a homeowner and government agencies to know who is trained, who should be let back into a disaster area to do post-mitigation work on homes.
We went up the road to the Homestead Air Force Base. And of course, I think most people are familiar with the terrible destruction that had occurred to that military post. For me, it was a startling situation to see, but even more so about 10 years after the storm, to go back and visit and see this haunting location with all of its still empty buildings, the fields piled with rubble. It's almost like a war zone, and it really, other than the edges being softened by time, it still has that feeling when I go there of the total devastation that the storm caused in that part of South Florida.
Starting in 1997, we had 2 new technical additions to the hurricane tools that we had to monitor and research them. The first is the Gulfstream 4 jet aircraft that NOAA was able to obtain mainly through the efforts of Bob Sheets after Andrew. And the second was a really small device called a GPS drop wind sonde. Only weighs about a pound. It's a little larger than a foot long. You launch it out of the belly of the aircraft, and it gives you pressure, wind, temperature, humidity measurements all the way from the planes level till the time it splashes in the ocean. And we've never had this kind of detailed measurements before with such accuracy. When a hurricane comes ashore, especially a strong one, what invariably happens is the anemometers blow away, they bend over and stop recording. The electricity goes out and they stop recording. We do not have very many measurements of what it's like with an actual wind trace from an anemometer of what the records of the winds are.
As we had the airplane flying back and forth through the center of the hurricane, we know that flight level, they were measuring winds of about 190 miles per hour in the north eye wall. We also had several observations in the core region of the hurricane. Unfortunately, every instrument in that core region actually failed before the peak event. And then we also had an individual who lived very close to my own home in the 160th Street area of southwest part of Dade County there, east of the highway. And he measured 212. However, his instrument was not an expensive instrument, and it blew away, by the way. It also blew away too. So that 212 measurement he had on a digital readout was before the peak event, but close, getting close to that peak event.
This was the unit that was located in Perrine that had the readout of the highest wind in Andrew. It registered 212 miles an hour, but wind tunnel tests indicated that it was overestimating the wind, so in reality it was probably about 175 miles an hour.
It wasn't any new data, it was a new understanding of how the hurricanes work. And that's why we've now bumped it from 145 miles an hour to 165. And so not even a borderline Category 5, but pretty right in the middle of the category itself.
The reclassification of Category 5 to Andrew, I think anybody that had rode through that storm disagreed with the category they gave it originally, and you know, I'm glad to see that they've got the science down to where they've reclassified it and made it a Category 5, because I tell you, it was a Category 5.
Now, you look back at Hurricane Andrew, and unfortunately, time has a way of you have to move on in life. The events of September 11th rekindled a lot of memories as they're related to Hurricane Andrew and the need to support each other during those difficult times. And we're always proud of our community efforts, but it's never enough.